Okay, we've got chapter 8 and I've got Marshmallow here. There was a good deal of discussion in the Brown family about what to call the new cockerel. Everyone had a different idea. The farmer said that, because the bird looked to have Indian game blood, it should have an Indian title, so how about Maharaja? His wife favoured Adonis, because the cockerel was so beautiful. Prudence fancied Justin, because it had very long legs, and there was a boy in her class at school with very long legs called Justin. As for Bob, he had not quite understood that the new arrival was to be a husband for Polly, and thinking it to be just another odd-looking hen, suggested naming it Samantha. At which point everybody laughed so much that he ran off in a temper, shouting, "Beasts, cows, cats!" In the end, it was Abigail who chose the name. "I think he ought to have one to match his new wife's," she said. "She's pretty Polly, so he ought to be handsome something beginning with a H." "Henry?" said Prudence. "No." "Hamlet?" said her mother. "No." "How about Horatio?" said her father. No, said Abigail. "He's so noble looking that I think he ought to be named after one of King Arthur's Knights of the Round Table." "I know, Galahad." "But that doesn't begin with H," they all said. "Doesn't matter," said Abigail. "That's what I want to call him." So they did. Handsome Galahad and pretty Polly now settled down to a life of domestic bliss in the dog run. For various reasons, Abigail and her father had decided between them that the honeymooners should not be allowed to range freely about the farm. First, there was always the possibility of a daytime raid by the fox. Second, there was Polly's father, the big brown rooster, to consider. A meeting with Galahad was bound to result in a fight, and the farmer had no doubt of its probable outcome. "Just look at those," he said, pointing to the sharp curved spurs on the backs of the young cockerel's long legs. "He'd knock 7 bells out of the old chap, he would. And that's no way to treat your father-in-law." And third, it was important that Polly should grow to regard the dog kennel as her home, where in due course, they hoped, she would hatch and rear her children. To this end, they provided her with a comfortable wooden nest box lined with straw, and though at first she dropped 1 or 2 eggs outside in the run or on the floor of the kennel in an absent-minded way, she soon began to lay in the box. Now that she had Galahad as a protector, the terror that had happened seemed to have left her at last, and she had gradually regained her powers of speech. At first, Galahad was quite obviously amazed to be dressed in a variety of different human voices, let alone hearing his wife moo or grunt or baa. But as time passed, he seemed to grow used to this phenomenon, and would even chuckle away in reply, as though to say, "Was there ever such a talented hen? Can't understand what she does about half the time, but she's brilliant, no doubt about that." In addition, he seemed immensely proud of another much more ordinary ability of Polly's, to produce an egg. Each morning when she stepped from the nest box after laying, he would pirouette around her in high excitement and give loud triumphant crows. Polly had also had a way to celebrate this daily event, so that no one was left in any doubt that it happened. Abigail had taught her a new phrase, and anyone who chanced to be near the dog run, round about mid-morning, was likely to hear a loud voice shouting, "3 cheers, Polly! Hooray, hooray, hooray!" Many of Polly's early eggs were on the small side, as Abigail's father had warned, but as time passed, they became generally big enough for him to tell her one day to stop collecting them from the kennel. "Just leave them in the nest box for now on," he said. "Why, Dad?" "So that she can lay a whole clutch, and then, with any luck, she'll go broody and sit on them. A hen's just like any other bird, you see, Abby. Its instinct is to make a nest, and then lay as many eggs in it as it can comfortably cover, and then sit. Easy for a wild bird, but a domesticated one like a hen finds that every time she lays an egg, someone removes it, so she has to lay another. It's our way of persuading them to produce an awful lot." "But Dad," said Abigail, "how do we know that Polly will go broody?" "We don't, and she may well not so early in her first laying season. But she's no ordinary hen, your Polly. And another thing, her old mother spent half her life stealing a nest somewhere and going broody. Polly may well take after her. We'll just have to wait and see." So they waited and saw the number of eggs build up until there was a baker's dozen in the nest box. And the morning after, they didn't hear the daily shout of 3 cheers. And looking into the kennel, they saw Polly sitting tight. Galahad seemed puzzled that his wife would not get out of bed, but every time he approached the nest box inquiringly, Polly fluffed out her feathers and made angry hen noises at him. His feelings were obviously hurt, and he stood about, looking injured. 13's an unlucky number," said Abigail. "Do you think that she'll hatch them all, Dad?" "She might. There shouldn't be any infertile ones, and she's certainly big enough to cover that many. We shall know the answer 3 weeks from today." During those 3 weeks that Polly was sitting brooding, 3 things happened among the poultry of the farm. One thing was rather sad, one was downright tragic, and the third, because of the second thing, was a happy chance for handsome Galahad. First, Polly's mother, the speckled hen, who was very old, older even than Abigail, fell off her perch one night and died quietly on the henhouse floor. Next, Polly's father, the big brown rooster, was standing one misty morning on his usual crowing place, a fallen apple trunk in the orchard, when the fox sneaked up behind him out of the gloom, just as he was preparing to shout cock-a-doodle-doo, and took him by the throat, right slap bang in the middle of the doodle. And third, the rooster's death meant that Galahad was now released from the dog run. He thus exchanged one newly orphaned wife, who had taken to sitting doing nothing all day, for more than 30 fresh ones, all delighted at the sight of this tall, dark, handsome stranger. On the 21st day, Abigail awoke very early, wondering for an instant why. Then she looked at the calendar on her wall, showing 20 dates scored out with a big cross, and leapt out of bed. It was really very early. Nobody was up yet, not even the sun, and the only sounds to be heard were the dawn chorus of the birds, and, inside the distant henhouse, the crowing of Galahad. Abigail opened the iron gate of the dog run and bent down, for the doorway was low, to look into the kennel. There sat pretty Polly as usual, hunched over her precious clutch of eggs. She stared at Abigail with a beady eye, but made no move or sound. Curiously, she had uttered no word of the English language during the entire course of the incubation, but only made the sort of noises that ordinary broody hens make. Now, when Abigail said, "Good morning, Polly," she remained silent. But suddenly, in that silence, Abigail heard a voice, a very small voice, that was presently joined by other very small voices, until there came from underneath the black and silver hen a positive chorus of little thin peep, peep, peeps. "Oh," whispered Abigail, "you've done it! You've done it!" And quietly, but clearly, the proud mother replied, "Pretty Polly, clever girl." Oh, do you want to see Marshmallow? This is Fluffy Bunny.